Hi guys, Tammy here again. Now before we start this episode, I want you to really quickly share, like, and follow, and comment down below afterwards, just so we can keep this algorithm sharing it and pushing it forward, okay? So, let's start. This channel is shaping up to be a channel about history, religion, and politics, and this episode, you might just get all three. You would have seen over many years, maybe even decades, that there are some people that are very nationalistic and they don't like things that are unknown, and they fear things that they don't know anything about. They worry about the things that they don't know. They worry about the things that is being put out there by the mainstream media. Really should be doing independent research, learning all about the facts. Franklin D. Roosevelt once said that the only thing that we have to fear is fear itself. And so once you dispel the myths and the misinformation that you have about Islam or Muslims in general, then that fear should be going away or should be allayed, okay? So I'm going to give you a bit of the history that I've done a little bit of research. I'm not an expert by any means. I'm going to offer you the cliff notes, and by all means go ahead and research it afterwards. One thing to know for sure is that Islam is nothing new to the European continent. In fact, if you start from the 8th century in 711, when the Umayyad dynasty started, or when the Umayyad Caliphate started, the golden Islamic age, the golden age of Islam, and you travel forward in time, 8 centuries later, then there's almost a seamless transition where the golden age of Islam ends and the Ottoman Empire begins. In case you don't want to do the math, it's over 1,000 years of Muslims and Islamic history in the European continent. The Umayyad dynasty started from the western part of Europe, which was in Spain and modern-day Portugal, and the Ottoman Empire started in Anatolia and traveled westward. So they kind of met almost in the middle. As far as the empires are concerned, and even after that, the demographics of the European continent changed, and there are large spots of Muslims and Islamic enclaves in Europe, especially in Eastern Europe, and they have remained Muslim in spite of the atheist and agnostic and secular sentiment that has traveled all throughout Europe. Currently in the EU, there are 27 countries, and 3 of those countries are only listed as non-secular. That is Denmark, Malta, and Greece. I can't believe I couldn't think of that. So Greece, Malta, and Denmark are the last countries that are still listed officially as Christian. However, there are very even the countries that don't. However, even the countries that are not listed as Muslim have large populations, and majority populations even, of Muslims. The misconception that Islam was spread by the sword is just that, a misconception, something that is perpetuated by mainstream media. And also, if you can see for yourself even, that there are many countries with a large population of Muslims that have endured through the test of time. And one of those countries is Kosovo. It has 93% Muslim population, followed by Albania, which has 80% population of Muslims. Bosnia comes in at 45% plus. The Republic of Macedonia, which surprised even me, had 40%, and Montenegro 20%. Then there's a whole bunch of countries that have just over 10% or just under 10% of Muslim population, and those are Bulgaria, Georgia, Russia, France, and before I move along, yes, Russia is in Europe. In fact, 23% of Russia lies in Europe, and they have 10% of Muslim population. Now let's not forget that Turkey also has 3% of Europe, 3% of Turkey lies in Europe. Now, it may not be much, but it's still 10% of their population that is Muslim, that is in that 3%. Mind blowing, am I right? It's true that currently over 25% of all of Europe identifies as agnostic and atheist, and France has been leading the way, especially since their Enlightenment period, up until up until current times. However, those people that identify as agnostic or atheist, they still identify as Christian, at least on paper. It's not like they're going to church every Sunday, but they identify as Christian. And oftentimes, this is research, oftentimes they also have very nationalistic sentiments. And so the consequence of that is that they are also anti-immigrant, anti-migrant, very xenophobic, and they don't like foreigners coming into their country. On the other side of the spectrum, people that have a higher percentage of an education are according to research, are not fearful of immigrants and migration. They understand the reasons why these things are happening, and they're even welcoming and have a discourse with other people that are not white or Christian. It is very unfortunate that people that have these negative feelings towards migrants and immigrants also are not informing themselves on all the background reasons as to why this is happening, even though like for thousands of years people have been migrating and immigrating to countries, and that is a very good example of often Europeans traveling to other countries, and that's something for another episode, and believe me, I would be very interested to find out what the numbers are. But there's a reason why Italy has over 6,000 abandoned villages. Greece also has quite a few abandoned villages, and I'm sure in other parts of Europe as well, which is one of the reasons why these countries, these very countries, are trying to give incentives to people to move back, because the young people are leaving, right? And they're abandoning these villages. So the very reason why people are coming to these countries, which is safety and security, and hopefully to get a better life for themselves and their family, one of the biggest reasons is because the Western countries are basically superiority thumping and making it seem to everybody as if these Western countries have the best of everything, have the best healthcare and education and rights, civil rights for everybody. And so then they also reserve the right to blame those people for coming, because they've been told, hey, this is great places to go to since my country is falling apart. Another thing to remember is that the reason why migrants and immigrants are coming to Europe is because Western countries and many Western European countries, they are going to other countries in Africa, in Asia, in the Middle East, in South America, and they're modern day colonializing, giving them democracy, giving them security, while at the same time stealing their resources. I mean, it's a fact. How else can you explain that France, that has no gold mines, has, I think it's like 880 million tons or something of gold, while a country like Mali, that has over 800 mines, has zero gold stored away? Why? Their gold is largely unexplored. Why don't they have any gold in store, while countries like France are offering them security and democracy? Okay, so don't listen to me. Go and check out the facts for yourself. And part of the problem is that the mainstream media has helped, the Western mainstream media has helped put out this idea that third world and poor countries are poor and third world, when they're being helped along to stay in those conditions in order to lose all their resources to the people that are supposed to be helping them. Okay, I assure you that those countries that they're calling poor and destabilized and third world, if you looked up their resources and their potential for bringing their resources like oil, their natural gas, their gold, their precious stones out, it's a lot. Like, for example, Haiti, for example, is lying in a pool of natural gas. It has one of the most precious minerals called iridium, and it has the purest form. 1 ton of this would be $44 billion. And this mineral is being used for for projects for outer space and the military. Okay, so this is a very, very valuable resource that is being stolen right from under their noses because their country is being kept destabilized. One last thing that I want to mention, it's a little tiny list that according to research, they're saying that the estimates for 2030 is that there will be about 58 million Muslims in Europe by 2030. However, part of that reason is because there are a large number of people that are converting to Islam, and those are mainly women. So ask yourself, why are women converting to Islam if it's such a misogynistic religion, when we all know the women read a lot? Okay, so I encourage you to go and open a book and read about Islam and find out that the media has been lying about Islam all along. It's not misogynistic. Islam has given women rights over 1400 years ago, basic rights. At a time, even 100 years ago, men in Western countries were questioning if women even had souls. Okay, but 100 years ago, women had rights for divorce, for marriage, for inheritance, to have a business, to keep their money, to keep their name. So think about that, okay? Another reason is that Europeans are not procreating at a proper rate called the replacement rate. So they're not having enough kids to replace the 2 people they just took out of commission. So even if it's not a married couple and it's just a couple, they oftentimes do not have any kids, and if they do, they have 1. And sometimes couples that have more than 1 kid, it's seen as a negative rather than a positive. So don't blame the Muslims for wanting to have more children. We are encouraged to have more children. Why shouldn't we have more children? Children are a blessing. Okay, so Greek people, you have the lowest rates. Okay, go forth and prosper. You have the lowest rates, and so you don't have anyone else to blame for your country's demographic changing and becoming more conservative or more religious or more Muslim, because you're just not having kids, or the young people of your country are leaving the country. And that brings me to another point, which is Western countries need people to come into their country, new people, new blood, young people to come into their country. They need them because there's a large part of the population that is retired or retiring, and they need the young people to be working in order to buffer the pension plans. And if they don't have enough people, then what's going to happen to people who are retired or on their way to retirement? So migration and immigration is a good thing as long as it's obviously done under certain circumstances, not like the southern border of the U.S., which is seeing like millions of people come through that are not being legally allowed into the country. They just open the floodgates. Okay, so that's not the proper way of doing it. It's causing a lot of chaos there, and I'm sure we're going to have some of it coming into Canada. It's better to have some structured migration, immigration, and also to stop attacking non-Western countries. Okay, and the people, which make up more than 99% of the world's population, the regular people, shouldn't blame the people that are fleeing from danger and famine. They should blame their leaders. Their leaders are the ones that are causing the problems everywhere. So regular people that make up more than 99% of the population should not be taking out their anger and their ignorance on people who are trying to survive, who are trying to protect their families, take them out of famine and out of danger. They should really look to their leaders, because our leaders are the ones that are causing all these problems or all this destabilization. And that's why we have this influx into Western countries of migrants and refugees, because of what the Western countries are doing, the Western governments, what they are doing to the rest of the world. Okay? And I'm sure there's a plan that we don't know about. Let's not go into conspiracy theories, but don't blame the people. Look to your government, protest your government, write to your government, call your government, email your government. Okay? I think that's it for now. That's the end of the episode. Maybe next week we'll cover something just as interesting. This was a very interesting subject to cover. And don't forget to read. If you want to comment, be nice. If you would like to read the Quran, please let me know. I would be more than happy to send you a free copy. I don't have a lot, but whatever I have, I would be happy to send it to you. See you again on the next episode. Bye.